My greetings to all the eminent experts, scholars, and our guests who have made it possible to bring such life, vitality, and inspiration with the opening of such a wonderful conference. I am trying to look at Gandhiji and his efforts, his explorations and experiments with respect to building and sustaining communities from a very Indic perspective, being an artist, a practitioner of two classical Indian dance forms, and being part of the Gurukul system, having been learned in the Guru Shishya tradition. I have to some extent been able to realize the beauty, the grandeur and glory of the ashram system. Being a follower of Gandhiji since my childhood, and the very reason why I'm here, techniques like observing silence, fasting, building a kind of resilience towards looking at communities that live and coexist with the modern world, still breathing with the traditional value systems. So I wish to speak on Satya, truth. And so I've named my presentation Asato Mā Sad-gamaya, understanding the conceptual framework of sustainable communities through the lens of Gandhian principles and the cultural ecology of truth, or Satya, as we may say. So I've quickly divided my presentation into 4 parts, looking at some of the underlying principles and concepts. The idea of Satya or truth, is it the same or they are different? The journey of Mahatma Gandhi in realizing the idea of an ideal community, and the cultural ecology of truth and conceptual frameworks. So to begin with, let us know truth, as the English word means that which is true, facts, the state or quality of being true. Satya, the Sanskrit word Satya, which can be loosely translated as truth or essence. It also refers to a virtue in the Indian religious traditions, referring to being truthful in one's thought, speech, and action. In yoga, Satya is one of the 5 yamas, we know, Satya, Ahimsa, Asteya, Aparigraha, Brahmacharya. And then Satya is the central theme in the Vedas. There is a beautiful shloka, Ritam cha satyam cha vidhat tapasodhyajayata. So the beginning of creation happens with Satya. So Satya, being the central theme of the Vedas, is equated with the concept Rita, which means order, rule, nature, balance, harmony. Satya is a resultant of Rita in the Vedas, as it regulates and enables the operation of the universe and everything within it. Satya is considered essential, and without it the universe and the reality falls apart, unable to fiction. Truth and truthfulness is considered as a form of reverence for the divine, and so falsehood becomes a part of sin. Rig Veda talks about Satya as a modality of acting in the word of Sat, as the truth to be built, formed, and established. Satya is widely discussed in various Upanishads, like we have Vidyā-Aranyam Upanishad, where Satya is equated to Dharma, which is a term to represent righteousness, not exactly religion, but righteousness. And then we have such beautiful, inspiring sayings from Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam vada dharmam chara, speak the truth or Satya, and conduct yourself according to the Dharma. So we see that there has been a cultural tradition of looking at Satya as the underlying principle for building communities. Truth is sought, glorified in the Upanishads. Manduka Upanishad states Satyameva Jayate Nanritam, which could mean Satya alone triumphs, not falsehood, or it would also mean Satya prevails and not the untrue. Sat Yuga. In the Indic concept of the Yuga cycles, we have this interesting calculation of the world ages. The beginning is the Sat Yuga, the age of truth, when every manifestation or work was close to the purest ideal and humanity followed intrinsic goodness. Coming to culture, we know that culture is an umbrella term which encompasses collective social behavior, norms found in the human societies. It also includes knowledge, belief systems, art forms, customs, habits, lifestyles, and so on. And so, I would also like to draw your attention towards two words, culture and Sanskriti. While culture comes from Cultural Ecology, which is about the cultivation of the soul, Sanskriti can immediately be etymologically described as something that is purified or perfected, something that is refined or civilized. And then in the Indic system of word creation, which is etymology or nirukta, every word has a root word. And so for Sanskriti, the root word is kri, which would mean to do, to make, perform, accomplish, cause, effect, prepare, undertake, execute, and so on, and also cultivate. So, I would like to look at culture and Sanskriti as Sanskriti being a color palette of few blues with one particular shade of blue that can be identified as culture. Culture can also be understood through some of these diagrams that I showed here. The outer shell being of the symbols, whereas the core is the values, or like the tip of an iceberg, whatever we do, be it the art form, be it the performative art forms, or the rituals, or the practices, or the lifestyle, that's just the part which is seen, whereas there is a larger part which is embedded within, and that forms the idea of culture. Cultural ecology, something that I've been pursuing since a while and is a rather newer area of study, is a study of human adaptations to social and physical environments, human adaptations that refer to both biological and cultural processes that enable a population to survive and develop within a given or changing environment. So it's interesting to see how culture, society, and environment together build a kind of synergy, a dialogue, and this is useful to look at what Gandhiji experimented and explored. Gandhiji's idea of truth. We know that Satya was the first amongst his 11 sankalpas, his 11 vows. Once he was asked, what is truth? And he answered, it is what the voice within tells you. This idea is purely formal. It rather refers to the method, how one may get the required insight. Gandhiji added, human mind works through innumerable media, and evolution of human mind is not the same in all, for all. It is a person, an individual, who is the authority of this knowledge. It's a realized knowledge after all. So it is not a traditional, a religious tradition, a holy book, nor any social or state organization to determine the content of truth. But yet he believed that truth and God were synonyms. Whenever the word satyagraha was used, satya seems to indicate as a role, a goal for a group of people. Here we may use the Western term natural law or natural light to be an adequate translation of satya. According to Gandhiji, satyagraha meant scrupulous regard of truth. Satyagraha as a soul force. is based on the recognizable will of an individual. The remedy for hinsa is ahimsa, and for untruth is truth. This seems to apply and imply that the source of satyagraha is recognition of untruth, injustice, or evil. And besides that is also the discard of it. Thus, the apprehension of untruth is the source of acknowledgement of truth also. So Gandhiji's initial years with experiments on truth took him towards various concepts. One of those were his dietary exercises, vegetarianism, while he was in London. That was also a dynamic time of meetings between the Eastern and Western currents of esoteric philosophies around the 19th century. So the transcendentalists valued intuition above empirical observations and experiences. But later it was theosophy. We know about Madame Blavatsky. That led Gandhiji towards the wisdom at the core of the Hindu tradition. Theosophical society represented itself as an eternal religion expressing the fundamental truths of all religion. And we know that the society motto was, there is no religion higher than the truth. From there onwards, his journey towards Bhagavad Gita, when two theosophist friends sought Gandhiji's assistance in reading Sanskrit original of Bhagavad Gita, and he was unknowingly initiated towards a journey for knowing about the eternal truth. In his journeys around exploring this idea of building a community, Gandhiji drew upon many's village communities of the East and West to establish a wholesome character of the pre-industrial Indian civilization. The Western interpretation of the village community that prevailed during the Victorian period depicted the village as a self-acting egalitarian institution organized on the basis of collective ownership. Leo Tolstoy's The Kingdom of God is Within You, and the transcendentalist writer Henry David Thoreau's essay on civil disobedience certainly influenced him and initiated him to conceptualize a community revolving around Satya and Ahimsa, with Satyagraha as the tool for reform and dialogue with the governments. Gandhi's later programs moved towards rejuvenating India's villages and his belief in the superiority of the ancient Indian civilization. Gandhiji believed that the spirit of non-violence and the truth force, Satyagraha, could be best inculcated with the intimate communal environment of an ashram. The members acquiring the ability to communicate the spirit to others by attempting to apply the values of truth and non-violence in all their relationships and against all forms of coercion and conflict. Gandhiji's journey of reviewing his own thoughts and discoveries and his search to realize the concept of an ideal community is in a way draws attention towards some of the ancient Vedic societies that had rural, local self-government institutions like the Gramini, Sabha, Samiti, Shreni. These were precursors of the Panchayat Raj, and we find references in the Vedic scriptures. Towards dwelling deeper into the metaphor Ramarajya, that envisages a society in which virtue, morality, and justice are the core ideals around which day-to-day interactions between citizen and state and citizen occur. Towards practicing the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, according to which moral and political action are based on duty, meaning dharma, and towards serving the others selflessly, Nihishreya Sama. I recently did a dance offering on Gandhi Jayanti, in which some of the Rasikas who are present today would be remembering that there was a panel of painting by Sayyid Haider Raza, in which there was this beautiful phrase, inspirational phrase, Nehi Shriya Sama. Gandhiji was deeply touched and moved by this phrase from the Upanishad, Kathopanishad, which means selfless service and the purpose of life. Gandhiji experimented with and wrote a great deal about simple living in harmony with environment, with ecology. His ideas about human connectedness with nature, therefore, rather than being explicit, are reflected in his writings. An eminent philosopher on deep ecology and also Gandhian values, Ann Nace, explains that Gandhi made manifest the internal relation between self-realization, non-violence, and what sometimes has been called biospherical egalitarianism. Gandhiji's utopia is one of the very few that shows ecological balance, and we observe that today his rejection of Western world's material abundance and waste is accepted by progressives of ecological movement. So there is an interesting systematization of Gandhian ethics and his principle of truth brought by Ness, where he derives that self-realization presupposes a search for truth. Coming back to Satya again, the word Satya derived from Sanskrit word Sat, meaning being, are considered as pivotal to the life of an ashramite according to Gandhiji. True knowledge depends on Sat, which is not separate from the Sanskrit words Chit, meaning consciousness, and Anand, meaning bliss. The three words together form the composite word Satchidananda, which is one of the epithets of the Supreme Being. Gandhiji suggested observance of truth was expected not just in speech but also in thought and action. With the emergence of communities around Satya as the foundational concept, possibilities of dialogues and debates on the concept of Satya and its layered understandings as the individual truth, the relative truth, the realized truth, or the absolute truth comes to light. In a number of writings, Gandhiji seems to deny the objectivity of statements concerning truth. He said that the opinions he has formed are not final. He may change them tomorrow. In our endeavor to approach the absolute truth, we shall always have to be content with the relative truth from time to time. Thus, our knowledge about truth or Satya is relative. It may be partial and seen from some limited angle. Now, reviewing the three ways to establish relation between culture, society, and environment. The first model that you see displays a total disconnect. Interestingly, this is the condition today. It comes as a caution on how the world seems to rapidly move towards sustaining multitude of individuals rather than communities. I offer the second, which gives an optimistic picture of a symbiotic relationship where each component of the ecosystem envisages further growth and expansion, sharing with each other. And the third may depict the more awakened society that was probably in existence during the Satyuga. Satyuga remains a concept for us. As Asat started pervading in the later yugas in order to restore cultural balance of the society, Natya Veda was created in the Dwapara Yuga, taking four elements from the four dimensions of knowledge, the four Vedas, each dealing with the idea of Satya in different ways. Awakened cultural consciousness is Sanskriti, and to be refined or perfected through a process of self-realization is Sanskar. Gandhiji undertook a contemplative journey in search of Satya or truth through his experiments with thoughts and lifestyles and his observances on the models of living and cohabitations. His later years were marked by observances on the Indic Darshana philosophy and on sustaining dialogues through transformative journeys of the Jivatma, the living being, towards Paramatma, the absolute being, thus liberating the Atman, the soul or the consciousness. Through abhyas, single-minded devotion, sadhana, dedicated practice, and vairagya, indifference to all the other interests and attachments in life, one can realize Satya, says Bhagavad Gita. Selflessness, self-realization, liberation, and merger with the absolute self, which is nothing but a totality of selves, thus becomes markers from the Gandhian perspective to observe the genesis and sustenance of communities built around an awakened cultural consciousness. Satya, that is dharma, and ritam, cosmic order, is unchangeable, yet ushers and initiates a transformative change towards the ecologies of truth and peace, thus leading to Sarvodaya, the universal upliftment. I come back to the verse that has remained an inspiration from me right from the time I came to Aurangabad, Mahatma Gandhi Mission. Ritam cha satyam cha bhedhat tapasodhyajayata. This is a verse from the Vedas. The universal order, Ritam and Satyam, were born of blazing tapas. Then the night was born, then the ocean was born. What is this night and what is this ocean? We'll come to that. Taking this message and inspiration further, Mahagami, which literally means a sojourner of a supreme journey, is a humble space and rather small community of art seekers who seek to learn through realizations and reflections. Our Gurukul campus was aptly named Rita some 27 years ago, with this promise to explore and work around Satya, which for us artists immediately implies pure, deep, inward, unpretentious, and liberated. Gandhiji's choice of devotional songs or inspirational songs like Vaishnava Janato or Raghupati Raghav Rajaram, or even the Bangla song by Tagore, Akla Chalore, speaks volumes about his idea of communities and how those could be built around cultural consciousness. Gandhiji's search, explorations, and models of sustainable communities takes us towards the time-honored, time-tested models of Sampradaya, Parampara, and Gurukula. Concepts that continue to remind and refresh human mind about the imperishable power of Satya, which also leads to Karuna, meaning passion, compassion, and Tatastata, firmness, and Sankalpa, grit. The night of ignorance, as mentioned in the verse, induces a momentum of change, adaptations, and realizations that keep changing and leads to the ocean of possibility, Kshira Sagar, that again awakens human mind towards newer search and newer revolutions. Asato Mā Sad-gamaya. So that was my humble submission on the idea of building and sustaining communities around cultural ecologies of Satya. Thank you very much.